Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So this video is going to be about Sony's PlayStation shutdown of Bluepoint Games, as you can tell from the thumbnail. This comes from Jason Schreier, who's written an article on Bloomberg about it on February 20th. So before I get into the article, I'm just going to give you like a brief summary. So for those who don't know who Bluepoint Games are, and why this is a massive deal, I'll explain. Bluepoint Games is a game development studio that was founded in 2006, and they were known for their incredible talent and ability when it comes to remaking and remastering classic PlayStation titles. Their very first game was a PlayStation downloadable shooter called Blast Factor, which was just about fighting biological infections. But over the coming years, they quickly pivoted to becoming PlayStation's go-to studio for high quality remasters and remakes. And their track record speaks for itself, for just how much people love this studio. Searching the internet about their list of remakes and remasters on Metacritic, you can see all of their projects were just full of appraisal and critical acclaims. Examples include the God of War collection with a Metacritic score of 91, Metal Gear Solid HD collection with a Metacritic score of 81, Shadow of the Colossus remake for the PS4 in 2018, 91. And finally, Demon's Souls remake for the PS5, a 92. Needless to say that when it came to remakes and remasters, Bluepoint Studios were that studio that just kept on giving. But fast forward to 2021, they were acquired by Sony PlayStation. At this point, many people have speculated that Bluepoint being under Sony at the time meant that there was ample opportunity for them to remake or remaster even more classic PlayStation titles. A great example of this would be the much speculated Bloodborne remake, given that Bluepoint Studios has a very long history of making remakes and remasters of coveted PlayStation titles for a very long time. It made sense. However, this would not be the case as the projects that they have been handed to work on by PlayStation, as it just did not make sense. In 2022, they were given the role as a support studio for 2022's God of War Ragnarok. After that, the next project that they were assigned to by Sony PlayStation was a God of War live service game, which ultimately got cancelled in January 2025. You can see this from an article from Kid Guru that also stated that at one point, Bluepoint had been putting up new game pitches together throughout 2025, but Sony seemingly opted to not pick up any of them. It's possible that these could have been pitches of remaking or remastering of old titles, or maybe it's Bluepoint Games coming up with their own IP. We will never know. It's just up in the air. Now, why is this so important? Well, to me, this is just extremely frustrating because Bluepoint Games, a studio that is just so renowned for its excellence in remakes and remasters, being shut down is not due to them not releasing any remakes or remasters or coming up with any of their own IPs, but rather it's due to the projects that they have been given by Sony PlayStation, which did not even fit Bluepoint's focus and talents. In what world does a studio whose focus is on remakes and remasters have any business in developing a live service God of War game? In fact, why was there even an idea about making a God of War game that had a live service element in it? It just didn't make sense. This is, in my opinion, this culmination of constant mismanagement and projects being handed to Bluepoint only for them to be upended unceremoniously begs the question of how much lower you can possibly go when it comes to acquiring a studio only to end up shutting them down or not meeting these ridiculous expectations following your recent business review, as stated by this spokesperson. We will get into the article that was written by Jason Schreier on Bloomberg later on. So this really puts the perspective of just how much the gaming industry loves to acquire these studios and tout that, oh, we have the best talent and resources under this huge umbrella of studios that we own, but choose not to nurture these studios and point them in the direction by focusing on what makes these studios what they are. So, to go back, this is going to be the article that was written by Jason Schreier on Bloomberg, and it's titled Sony Shuts Down Video Game Studio Bluepoint. So I'll read it to you right now. Sony Group Corporation is shutting down Bluepoint Games, the PlayStation subsidiary responsible for developing remakes of video games such as Demon Souls. Roughly 70 employees will lose their jobs amid the studio closure, a PlayStation spokesperson said, writing in a statement that the decision was made following quote unquote a business review and Bluepoint will officially shutter next month. The spokesperson continues with Bluepoint Games is an incredibly talented team and their technical expertise has delivered exceptional experiences for the PlayStation community. We thank them for their passion, creativity, and craftsmanship. Which, to be honest, this whole thing about thanking them is just a ton of bullshit and just damage control. Again, I really don't buy it at this point. It's just such a normal occurrence that you see and just roll your eyes over it. It's nonsensical. To many people who are expressing the same sentiment, Sony PlayStation at this point may as well just be the gaming company that is known whose live service initiatives end up being such a dumpster fire. This is a list of PlayStation's live service games that never came to fruition. Notable examples of this include The Last of Us multiplayer game that got cancelled in 2023, Twisted Metal in February 2024, Payback Project from Bungie in August 2024, and most notably Concord, which was the biggest failure of them all, where it was reported that $400 million was put into the project only to be shut down 2 weeks later. The only live service game that ever had some semblance of success was Helldivers 2, and that was a game that they were not expecting to be successful. So after all of this, naturally the backlash from the gaming community was so extreme, and for very good reason. But what makes this backlash so explosive was that this news came just a week after Sony's PlayStation State of Play, with the final announcement at the end of the State of Play live stream, was a God of War trilogy remake that Santa Monica Studio was developing. This wasn't just a question mark, but a huge outrage, as this could have been a project that Bluepoint Games could have easily taken it up upon themselves. Sony could have gave them the green light and say, okay, do this God of War trilogy remake, because that's what you're good at. Why wasn't this done, Sony? Instead of Santa Monica, you could have given it to Bluepoint Games, and this could possibly alleviate some pressure from Santa Monica for them to, get to work on a new God of War game or a new IP, but something. And apparently that's not the case anymore. So this could have been a huge opportunity, as this was Bluepoint's bread and butter. But the gaming community did not hold back when it came to expressing their opinions on this. To show how bad things have gotten, here is a summary of what has happened from in-game news. If you scroll down to this section where it's titled PlayStation Ends the Radio Silence but Fans Aren't Buying It, the 72-hour ghosting where Sony's main social accounts went dark for 3 days following the fallout of Bluepoint Games' closure. In it, it says, after a brutal 72 hours hiatus that saw Sony's primary social channels go completely dark, the platform holder has finally crawled back into the light. This wasn't a triumphant return or a heartfelt apology regarding the shuttering of Bluepoint Games. Not that it would matter because no one's buying it, but whatever. The masters behind Demon Souls remake, but rather a standard promotional post, or the strategy titled Revival Recolonization. We're calling it what it is, a contractual obligation. PlayStation is tiptoeing through a PR minefield, and for good reason. This section continues with the silence began in earnest after the Bluepoint news broke, leaving a scheduled post for Bungie's marathon to twist in the wind. That post became a lightning rod for quote-unquote feral fan reactions, racking up thousands of replies from a community that feels Sony has lost its way. When you close a prestige studio like Bluepoint while dumping billions into live service bets, the quote-unquote dumbass company comments are frankly the tamer side of the discourse. And it's not just the company that's getting the backlash as well, as there is also an individual that is also being targeted, that being Herman Holtz, who is the current PlayStation Studios boss. So if you scroll down this article again to the Herman Holtz problem, it reads, while the corporate entity of Sony is taking the brunt of the hits, a significant portion of the community has locked onto a specific target, PlayStation Studio boss Herman Holtz. A quick scan of the replies to the recent Revival post shows a fan base that is no longer just upset about a single studio closure, they are questioning the entire leadership structure. We believe this sentiment stems from a perceived shift in PlayStation's first-party DNA. Fans quote-unquote outright state they want him to be fired, linking Holtz directly to the ongoing quote-unquote first-party issues and the pivot toward games like Marathon at the expense of veteran single-player talent. Whether that's a fair assessment or a quote-unquote stretch is up for debate, but the optics are undeniably poor. Sony's decision to go silent was likely an attempt to turn quote-unquote the temperature down, but the heat hasn't dissipated, it's just focus. So all in all, this is just a colossal mess from Sony's side, as they've clearly shit the bed. There's nothing much to say about it except Sony has really fumbled with Bluepoint really hard. They had a really valuable asset where when it came to remakes and remasters, they clearly have the capabilities and the talent to bring some of PlayStation's most renowned titles onto modern systems where people could play it, and hell, maybe even give it, like a PC port. Alas, that's not the case. So yeah, congratulations Sony. You've clearly screwed yourself over. I'm not going to extend the video any longer. I mean, as you can see from the entire Twitter and Reddit posts, many of them have expressed their just frustrations all around. So yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to drag this video any longer. If you guys enjoyed what you have seen, what you have heard, you can comment down below what you think of this entire situation. I would love to hear it from you. What are your thoughts about the Bluepoint Games closure? Share this video if you have anyone who plays, PlayStation games or any of them, and they are just sad that they won't see another old title anymore. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and goodbye.